and gentlemen, welcome to episode 125 of PD's Awesome Guest Panel. And yes, we are finally back after a 1 month sabbatical. So glad to be back. And before I introduce tonight's iconic guest star and co-host for this evening, I would like to dedicate this episode to the memories of the late, great Peter Rudner. God rest her soul. She was an awesome cast member on Power Rangers Mystic Force. This one's for you, Peter. And before we introduce tonight's guest star for this evening, I would like to introduce tonight's co-host. First off, my friend and from jolly old England, and first of all, the man with the absolute Power Ranger plan, Mr. Kwame Jacobs.
Yo, it's your boy. Glad to be back. It's been a while since this whole show was on hiatus, but I'm glad we're back on.
Likewise, and we're so glad to have you back, man.
Oh yeah.
And to join us tonight, we have a dear friend of mine also, and Power Ranger enthusiast, Mr. Daniel Romano.
Hey. Hello, everyone.
I love having you on, Dan.
Thanks.
And
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. And joining us tonight will also be Miss Gia Trobetta.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. It is so great to be here.
Salutations. Can I say that in the next one?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. And joining us for the first time ever, and a longtime Power Ranger fan, Miss Jess Pike.
Yeah.
Hi.
She's a close friend of me and Gia's.
Yes, she is.
All I gotta say, Jess, welcome aboard.
I'm glad I got you in here.
Yes. And tonight we're gonna introduce our guest star.
Lovely to be here.
Absolutely great to have you here. And tonight we're gonna introduce tonight's guest star for this evening. He is the star of Power Rangers Mystic Force and Xander Bly himself, Mr. Richard Brancatisano. Forgive me, sir. How are you today, Mr. Richard?
I'm doing great. How are you, Petey? Mr. Richard's great. I like that better.
Let me get again.
It's gonna stick.
Forgive my pronunciation. If I get it wrong, it's Brancatisano. Oh, please tell me I got it.
Beautiful.
Okay. Sorry about that.
I can say it.
Well, the most important question is, how you doing?
I'm really well, thanks.
Good to have you on.
Really well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's an honor. The first question I'm going to ask you, sir, and this is going to be a typical cliche question, and that is, how and when did you get your first big break and/or start into acting? Take us there.
Okay. I'll say there were like 2 chapters. One is when I first, well, actually, maybe 3. When I was younger, I did go to a drama class. Maybe I think I was like maybe 10 or something, maybe a bit earlier. Maybe I was like 8 or 9, and I remember like we were on pirate ships or something, and we were doing something to Enya's "Sail Away." You know that song, "Sail Away, Sail Away, Sail Away." That song. And all I remember is that song playing and like doing some miming thing, and really enjoying it. And I actually drive past that hall every so often because my brother lives around the corner from it, and I still remember the stairs to that hall, like, and you know what I mean, like it implanted a strong memory there. So I think that's the first time where I was kind of like, I like that. Oh, and then there was a time in school where we were doing a sort of play, and this other kid got the lead, and he was standing up on the table being the lead, and I was looking up at him, and I remember a certain amount of like jealousy, like like, oh, I want to be doing that. I want to be the center of attention. He was really good at what he was doing. I probably couldn't have done it, but I remember like being like sitting there and being like, oh, like that looks like fun. And then high school, I'd play guitar, so I was playing a lot of guitar at that point, and the school was doing a musical called The Pajama Game, and one of my teachers, and who was what they call housemaster here, like the head of, you know, have sort of maybe different houses in high school. She was awesome, and she said, "Oh, we need a guitarist for this scene, Hernando's Hideaway." And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that." And then I rocked up, and I was playing on stage, and that was the first time I was sort of on a proper stage in front of, you know, hundreds of people. And then she was like, "You should just join the chorus." And I was like, "I can't sing. I can't join the chorus. I don't know what to do." She's like, "Just join and just stand in the background and just sing along." And this was right at the end of there was only 2 weeks left before we went on stage. So I came in just at the end and sort of like learnt everything from just looking around, and then ended up singing in the chorus and playing guitar on the Pajama Game. And I think the whole community around the live theatre and the musical, and how much fun everyone was having on stage and backstage, really hit me. I was like, oh, this is awesome. And it was combining music with acting as well, two of my favorite things. So that sort of like, that's when I went, oh, I could do this again. And then they did a Shakespeare the next year, and I thought, I'm not doing Shakespeare. There's no way. I don't like it. It's
Mhm.
I was like, this is not my thing. I'm not going to remember all these lines. I don't even understand it. And then the same teacher like pretty much forced me to audition for this role in the 12th Night Festy, and because he's a jester and he plays the guitar and sings and stuff. So anyway, I remember like very reluctantly going in to audition and like reading the words off the page and just being like, that was the crappiest audition I've ever done in my life. I'm never going to get it. Anyway, I did get the role, and I went on to very much enjoy doing the Shakespeare. And then that just led to more and more musicals at school and acting at school. And then I came out, I did drama school. And then Power Rangers was my first sort of professional break into the industry, where I felt like, because all that was just school and stuff, and I had no idea about whether it was ever going to translate to the real world. You know, I'd been doing it there and I enjoyed it, but I really had no sort of sense of like what it was like to be on TV. That world felt impossible to get into. It just, I didn't know anyone who was on TV. I didn't have any family who was into performance. You know, my world was very I guess distant from that. So when I got an agent, and then I auditioned for Power Rangers, and I got the role, and it was a lead role, and I was going to be, you know, a series reg, and I was shooting for a year or 7 months, and it was a show I knew that was like a very big deal for me. And I remember thinking, okay, like I'm in. I've like opened the gates. I've somehow, you know, I'm doing real work now, you know. So yeah, that was a long answer. Sorry.
No, it was an excellent answer. And you mentioned
Yeah.
too, like music though. Like, do you have a particular favorite like music genre that you personally like?
Oh, it's a good question. I grew up listening to a lot of Metallica. Like that was
Oh, same
Same
here.
yeah.
Yeah, I love Metallica.
Me too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Memory,
Yeah, there was a
memory remains is one of my favorite songs.
great song.
Four Horsemen.
Good.
Oh, early days, great. I think I went through a stage. I learned guitar from say 10 years old, and then I went through a stage from like maybe I was like 10 to 13 or 14 where I only listened to Metallica. I'm quite a black and white. I try and not be black and white, but I find myself being black and white with things. Like I get very focused on things, and then like only like that, or just do this, or you know, I'm all or nothing in many ways. And Metallica was one of those ways where, or like if anyone offered any other music, I was like, nah, don't want to hear about it. I just want to listen to Metallica. So it was a good 3 years of just Master of Puppets, Load, Reload, and Justice for All was probably one of my favorites. All on cassette, listening on my Walkman, just rewinding and listening, and trying to learn all of it on guitar. So I learned a lot of my guitar playing was influenced by Kirk Hammett and Metallica. And then I remember, I really remember the day when my friend was like, look, I know all you do is listen to Metallica, but I've got this amazing song and there's flutes in it, and don't be put off by the flutes. And he probably thought, oh, he's not going to like flutes if he likes Metallica, you know what I mean? And he shows me this song, and I was like, immediately, I was like, it was amazing. It was Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. And you know how there's flutes in the intro and all that. They're not, I don't think they're real flutes. It's a mellotron. And I remember hearing that and being like, oh, okay, I can get down to this. So then I got into Led Zeppelin, and then that led to Black Sabbath, and then that, you know, led to all that sort of Ozzy Osbourne, and that realm of sort of rock / metal. And then that branched out later when I got out of school. I sort of branched out more into what I love now, which is more, I like dream pop. So I'm super into like Beach House and bands like that. Melody's Echo Chamber, super like dreamy, ethereal stuff. And I love sort of old school, like 60s, 70s stuff / folk, classic kind of sounds. Roy Orbison, The Doors.
They're so good. I
The
love the
Beatles?
Doors.
Would you say the Beatles
Yeah.
would be one of them or no?
Oh yeah, of course.
The Stones, Rolling Stones too. They're
Yeah.
great.
Stones.
Rolling
The
Oh,
Oh, and
Animals.
even the beat.
Ex-
Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
What did you say, Gia?
Oh, I just wondered, would the Beach Boys be one of your favorites as well?
Yeah, I do like the Beach Boys. They're probably not like my favorite, but Pet Sounds is one of my, I love that album, and there are
What
some
about
classic songs.
what about Blue Oyster Cult? Just out of curiosity, you like them?
Great. I love Beatles.
Amazing.
Yes.
Yes,
Don't
they've
Fear the
got, they
Reaper.
sort of they sort of go from that 70s sound to a bit more dreamy as well.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. So yeah,
Me too.
exactly that. Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah, and I think Metallica covered one of their songs.
Were you a fan of AC/DC?
Oh, massive.
Oh, yeah.
That in fact, that was a big. My cousin loved AC/DC, so I got him onto Metallica, and he got me onto AC/DC, and that was another band that I learnt all their material and like knew all their solos, and that sort of it allowed me to become a bit more popular at school because that everyone loved that band at my school, being in Australia. So being able to like whip out Thunderstruck and all those
Ooh,
songs,
so
like
good.
Oh,
I think
Thunderstruck.
yeah, I had something.
Richard, so I'm curious, are you the type of dude who, like, if you hear a song, can you just play it just by listening to it?
Depends how hard the song is. But for
Okay.
the most part,
That's so
yeah,
cool.
I generally pick things up by ear. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
my
if I'm
brother's
learning
the same
songs
way,
for
so that's why I ask. That's so cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's a neat
It's a-
trick.
it's
Some
a
people
skill.
are very good at it. It's a
Yeah.
skill. You can definitely get better at it the more you practice. A lot of people who play in the professional realm, session musicians, have to get very good at that.
You also
That's so cool.
you also did you talked about acting too, and Kwame actually has a question related to acting in general though. Kwame, take it away.
Were there any methods like preparation you do for your any methods preparation you do for your role? Am I saying it right?
The question was, are there any preparations or methods that you do to prepare for any particular role?
Yeah, that's it.
Any particular role? Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. First off, I really like to have the lines down. Like I like. Look, this is the more you're on a show, the easier it is to learn the lines because you understand the whole world. You know all the characters. You sort of know the context of what your scene is, or what it's, where your scene fits. So therefore, everything that you're saying makes more sense. So therefore, it's easier to learn. Whereas when you get an audition, it's just coming from nowhere. You just got these lines, and you don't have this world that it fits into, and that makes it a lot harder to learn. So, but regardless of that, knowing my lines allows me to live in the scene more and not be trying to recall things or be worried I'm going to forget them. Because if there's any sort of anxiety or if some scenes you can get away with not knowing lines because it might be a slow scene, you might have to be finding the words anyway as a character. But if you're driving the scene and your character's on it, and then there are some scenes where you have to have it down, and that's nothing special. All that is just doing the work. Anyone can do it. So it's the thing I like least about acting is learning the lines. Hate it, but I find that it's like exercise. I don't like doing exercise, but I feel better after I do it, and it makes life more fun. So learning the lines means when I go onto set, and there's always surprises on set, like there's a camera angle you weren't expecting, or the way the other person is acting is different, and the tone of the scene is different. There's so many curveballs that come at you when you're on set that if you solidly know your lines, then that you can get through those things and you can adapt. Whereas the first thing for me to disappear is if I get a shock from the way someone's reading a line or anything on set. The first thing like is I go, oh God, that's different, and then my line disappeared, and then I feel like an idiot, and then I feel like I'm looking like I'm not prepared, like I don't care. You know, learning your lines shows that you care when you go on set. It shows that you care about the role, you care about the production, especially if you're a guest star on something. You know, it's respect to the actors that are there all the time. So that's really important. That's a simple thing, but it's important. And a lot of people do come on set and don't fully know the lines. In terms of, I think everyone's got a different method. I like to kind of make it as real as possible. And sometimes I look at a script and you can get too caught up on the script as opposed to going, the script is it's sort of like a roadmap, but you got to work out why you're walking that path. And you got to work out, why am I saying those lines? Why, if you understand what I'm saying, you got to look into what's under the script. The script is just the tip of the iceberg, you know, and the iceberg underneath is huge. And oftentimes if I just, you know, do the script, I'll watch a performance and I'll think, that wouldn't happen in real life, or I wouldn't speak like that in real life, or it's just not, you don't watch it and go, oh, I'm watching something happening. Whereas you should almost like you could almost change the script and say something else, but the energy and why you're there and why you're talking to that character or what you're doing still needs to be strong. And that to me is something that I try and look at, is what's the life underneath the words, and then so the words, then when you hit the words, they all make sense. And you're like, I know why they're saying that. I know how they got to that line. There's nothing worse than saying a line and the audience being like, they didn't earn that line. Like, you're saying that, but you're not feeling like that, or you're not that angry or upset enough to be saying that line. So it's weird. And then as humans, we're very social people. So when we watch actors that don't earn the lines, we whether we know what's wrong or not, we automatically just feel like, oh, that doesn't feel real, or that's bad acting. You know, if you watch really good actors, every line they say they've got there with the right feeling, and that's knowing what you're meant to be feeling and preparing and sitting at the script and sort of working it out, nutting it out. And that is fun. That part is fun, because it's like a puzzle.
And that's why I absolutely love your performance in Mystics Force, because you make it so believable. Like, there's times like I feel like you're not even reading a script because this feels so natural that, you know, when you deliver your lines, I feel like this is real life. And I have a question related to what you just said about like how if you put more feel into the lines, then you make it more believable, which I totally respect and appreciate, like in good storytelling. That's why, much like, you know, another Power Ranger star I've had on here, Kat Brown, who was on Power Rangers Ninja Storm. She's an absolute great storyteller, much like you, sir. And this is going to lead to my next question, which is the raw emotion question. And I'm going to put you in a scenario, Richie. Like if you were doing a scene, and then the scene requires you and your said co-star to get into this heated argument slash confrontation, and they said the co-star comes up to you and they had an idea to like enhance the scene to make it more believable, and he goes up to you and he says, Mr. Brancatisano, there I go again, and he says that to you because he has so much respect in the world for you. He says, I have an idea where we can really enhance the scene. I know this is gonna sound crazy, but if I had an idea where, like, if you lambaste me so hard, you lay into me so hard that you can make me cry in frustration. That way, we not only tell a great story, but make it believable to the audience at home. If you were approached with this said method, how would you react to it, and what would you say to that said co-star?
It's a really good question. You'd have to be careful with the words you say to someone on set. You'd have to make sure, like, how do I put this? You have to make sure what you're saying is not personal to that actor, so that you're really getting to the core of that actor as a person. You have to make sure that person is strong enough to let whatever you're saying affect them. Part of being an actor, basically sensitizing yourself to certain to the world around you. and you're becoming, normally, if you weren't acting, someone's saying whatever the character's saying to you, and you're going, that's not real, so therefore it's not affecting me, right? If someone's going, you're a liar, and you go, well, I haven't lied about anything, so it's not affecting me. But as an actor, you have to sensitize everything in your body to believe what that person's saying, because that character would believe it. So it's like you turn on a switch where you go, I'm now going to believe what that person's saying at me. So it's that person's job who's asked me, I really want you to go for it, to sensitize themselves as that character. So then what I say to them hits them more than it would in real life, right? And I would have to be careful if that person, if you're telling me that person wants me to make up words and it's not in the script, if that's what you're saying, like, is that what you're kind of getting at? Is like, don't just go off script and really
in order for the person to sell the art, like to sell like the upsetness when the person's laying into them, and just to sell the story.
Yeah.
Well, there's two things: either it's in the script or it's not. If it's in the script, then
What if
you
it's in the script?
have to be, I guess you don't have to be okay with it, but you discuss it with the director, and before the take, I would always just, you make sure the other person's okay, and you go, all right, obviously this is a really hectic scene. You good? You ready to take this? And then and you have this understanding on a human to human level, and then when action is called, then they sensitize themselves, and I start saying things that I wouldn't normally say to someone. And then after, when they call cut, you might kind of go, all right, you good? I love you. All right. And you have to be sensitive around those things. Same applies to all sensitive sort of material, intimate material, this sort of material, loving material, all that stuff. Anything that's like pushing the fabric, you've got to sort of have a human to human understanding with that person that's stronger, beyond the scene. So then, you know what I mean? But I would never, even if someone asked me to, I would never get personal with someone to get a response out of them. To me, that's on them. If they need me to abuse them to make them cry or to act better, then maybe they're not good enough at what they're doing, and they need to work on sensitizing themselves so then they can react to whatever the script is. If that makes sense. Part of being a good actor is not needing someone to brutalize you so you can act accordingly to what the character needs.
Yeah.
Part of it is being sensitive enough to be able to feel those emotions, to feel shame, to feel guilt, to feel whatever you would feel if someone was laying into you. You know what I mean? But it's a dance. So the person might go, oh, you can go harder. And I might go, great. But that's also up to the director too, because it's all about the tone, and it's all about how hard would this character go? How hard would that character take it? Sorry, that's a complex answer, but it's not a simple question. Definitely not a simple question around acting.
I was gonna say too. It was like basically it's like it was in the script, but the way they say it's more like the saying, like it's not what they said, it's how they said it. Basically, it's like how they would say it to a person, like during the scene of the thing to get a reaction. That's what I was trying to put out.
Yeah. So you also have to be careful about that. If you're an actor and you're telling another actor how you want them to say lines, so then it helps you. You have to be careful that you're not giving them a direction or a read. There's a certain etiquette on set where you have to be careful about sort of coaching another actor or telling them what you need from them. That's sort of more the director's job. It depends what sort of relationship you have with that other actor though. If you do have a super strong bond and friendship with them, you've been working with them for a while, and you know that they might be holding back because they're worried, or you can see that, and you know the scene wants it in. You could say to them, mate, if you want to go harder than that, it's all good. If you're worried about me, I'm fine. If you want to go harder, and don't be scared by how I react. It's all good. I got this. So be more about giving that actor confidence that they're not going to break you if they go as hard as they want to go on that scene, and that I can handle it as a person, And even though I'm sensitized during the scene and I might not look like I'm handling it, which is the whole point of acting, that underneath I'm okay. Does that make sense?
It does, and it's a very fair answer.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
And
That got me thinking, did they ever let you improvise? Like from the script or no, or not really, or did they?
A lot of on Power Rangers or
Yeah, on Mystic Force, yeah.
Yeah, there was a little bit. Improvisation. Sometimes a script needs little sort of flowing words and things just to make it sort of come together like a bit. You need to hear a bit more of the iceberg, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like there might be such a small bit coming out where you're like, oh, I feel like I just need a couple more words in here before this, or so there's small incidental sort of things like that are quite normal, and most actors do those, and I think they're needed because you have your own way of speaking, and sometimes the script is very different to that. So I like to sort of mold it a little bit, but you have to be very careful that the script is there for a reason, and it says important things and things that people need to hear for the story, and they're extremely important. So you have to always make sure if you're going to improvise that those parts are in it, and that your improvisation also doesn't take away from the mood or the it has to be well done. And sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. Sometimes you try things and the director's like, I appreciate that. It was good to try it, but let's just stick to the script.
Because I mean, you guys are artists too,
Yeah. And then sometimes you do something and they're like, great. But I think oftentimes you know, the great thing about TV is you can do all these takes. So you can do one where you improvise, you can do one straight, and they say for safety, they call that. Let's just do one for safety where it's just the script, and you're like, great. And then you feel more free to play later, because they've got one that they can use, and then you can start. Look, in comedies they do this a lot. There's a lot of improvisation because that's where a lot of the gold comes from.
Oh, okay. And Jess, you had a question. You're gonna have to
You may want to unmute yourself.
Hold on, let me see if I got it for her. There you go.
Go ahead, Jess.
Okay. My question is, what is your memories from your audition for Power Rangers Mystic Force, and how it led to you getting the role? Stop my bad.
Sorry, what was the last part?
The last part. The last part of the question was, and how it led to your role of Xander Bly.
Oh, sorry, I lost all of you then for about 10 seconds.
Oh, okay. Can you hear us now?
Yep, absolutely.
The question, well, she was asking about your memories of your audition for Power Rangers Mystic Force and how it led to your role as Xander Bly.
Great. Thanks, Jess. So I was doing a play in Canberra, which is 3 hours south of Sydney, where I live, and I got an email saying, audition for Power Rangers, and I remember thinking, oh wow, that's I didn't know they make Power Rangers anymore. I'd watched it as a kid, and I didn't know they were doing it, and so I thought, oh, this is cool. I wonder if this is the same Power Rangers or if it's different. And anyway, I remember going for the audition. I drove down from Canberra for the audition. I drove up from Canberra because Canberra's south, and I remember having to do some karate moves for it, which was fun. I remember one line from it was quid pro quo. I had to use that line, and I was really worried about saying it and stuffing it up because it's not a phrase I usually use, quid pro quo. I also did it in an American accent.
No way.
Yeah. And I auditioned for both the red and the green. And for us, also auditioned for the green and the red. So I remember going in and having to learn 2 parts. And then it was only later when we were doing the table read, and probably because my American accent was crap. They were like, why don't you try reading it in your Australian accent? And I was like, at first I was like really upset. I was like, oh, my accent's so bad. And they're going to make me do Aussie. And I was so excited about doing an American accent. You know, it was the dream to be on an American TV show doing an American accent. So my ego was hurt, but I did it in an Australian accent, and they were all like, oh, that works. And I was like, damn it works. Damn, they're going to keep it. Then it meant shooting was like, that was like I said, that was my first main role in something. So it took a lot of pressure off, you know, shooting every day, doing an American accent would have been even more pressure. So, and I already felt it enough. I was already very nervous and felt like I couldn't, you know, bring what I needed to bring for this role. I felt like an imposter, really, I guess. I didn't, you know, feel like I was good enough to be there. And so the American accent, getting rid of it was good in a way. And then I remember early days of the internet, because this was back 2005.
5? Okay.
6.
2006, yeah.
It was 2006 where Mystic Force.
Oh, it's 2006. Yeah,
2006.
so we would have shot it in 2000, ended maybe 2005. I think, or either So it debuted in 2006.
Yeah.
Was it?
That's right.
So we would have shot at the end of 2005.
Was Mystic Force? I don't mean to interrupt, but was Mystic Force in New Zealand?
Yes.
Yeah.
In New Zealand.
Yeah.
Which was great too. So it's my first time, I think, going overseas and living over there for 7 months. That was cool. But I remember going onto forums and looking up what people were saying. Yeah, Ranger Board. And
sorry, my
and I
day
remember
myself.
reading and being so scared, you know, that people were going to hate my character.
Oh, no.
Like, this is like, it's so funny when I think about it now, because all actors are plastered all over, you know, the social media and people writing all these comments, and it's so visible now to the whole world. But back then you had to kind of search for it, and it was the early days of sort of getting public opinion, you know, and people could write it up there and you could read it and see it. And I was surprised that people were actually digging what I was doing for the most part, that it was positive and they liked the accent. And I was like, oh shit. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear.
Oh, you can say
That's good.
Yeah.
No worries.
Don't
Yeah,
be
I was
sorry.
basically very, I was very surprised. And I remember where I was when I read it. I remember the room I was in, and I went, like, this whole wave of sort of just relief came over me that I wasn't hated, at least, you know, because I've done roles and
you're
I've
a
done
fan
things. And
favorite.
Yes.
maybe
I hope
don't
you know
know.
that people like you're like, why do you think they brought you back for once and always? You're a fan, like people, we love you, you know, like and you were saying earlier about your accent. That's one thing I think people love about you and your character is they let you be you and let just your, like how you're saying before, be real. You're real, and that's like, again, that's one of my things. And like, I'm glad they let you keep your accent, and
Same.
just your character was great. So
Yeah.
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, I
You're
think
welcome.
in hindsight, I feel the same way.
Two things I learned watching Mystic Force, Richard. I learned 2 things. One, you're an amazing storyteller, and I really mean that. Like, the way you do episodes is like you really sink people in the audience interest. I learned that. I also learned, much like you, is that Xander Bly is a very, very likable person, a very likable character. He's a likable guy, and we all love him.
What the, I
Thanks.
don't.
appreciate
The
it.
only thing is, I don't think he would be able to be made today in today's atmosphere. Because I'm just gonna say, like Xander's character again. I love him. He's great. Like you're one of my favorite Green Rangers. But what's the thing about him that wouldn't be made today is he was kind of a womanizer. Like he was always hitting on the customers and stuff like that. So they'd be so offended by that. So, but for me, that's what I love about it. He was confident and cool. Like just
Yes.
and he was like he would like even Vita. He was in on Vita and like just the first in Broken Spell. You see it. It's just it's great. But
Oh,
that's what I love because he could never be made today. People would be so offended by that. Like, oh, look at him. Be like, because like they did that in Dino Charge. They made a joke, like they made a fool of the man basically, and they never made a fool of you, which I'm glad because again, you're a great kid. Like you yourself are great, but Xander is also great because of that. Like he was who he was, and he was a flirt again, a womanizer, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just it's cool. It is what it is. So again, that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I think also in the script you sort of learn why he's like that and why he's overconfident, and you understand that because he came from the past of being bullied and he's had to sort of he's had to boost his ego up, and then you see that become a problem, with his vanity, with his nose, and he turns petrified Xander, and he realizes about friendship and how important friendship is, and how and he develops a good friendship with Vita.
Oh yeah, I love it, and it was Claire too.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was good. I think it wasn't. It had a good balance in terms of. Hello, my cat's just come out. Hello. Do you want to meet her?
And that kind of, one of my favorite lines of yours, since you're talking about that, is from let's see.
I say hello. Sorry, I'm smitten.
Beautiful.
She's adorable.
Yeah, she's great. Her name's Aria.
Precious.
Aria.
Beautiful name too.
Aria.
Beautiful kitty.
Aria. Yeah. Oh, you're being so well mannered too. Sorry, go on.
Precious.
I was just gonna say my favorite quote from you is it's not even a Xander focused episode, but it was from Light Source. What you were just saying, you say, we like I know what it's like from sorry if don't be offended I'm doing your accent, but like we're your friends, we're your mates. And it was from Nick well, like because Udana was still captive then, and that's when it just that has always stuck with me. Because again, I love Mystic Force. It's in my top 3 favorite seasons. I rewatch it a lot. It's so good. So just want to throw that out there too. So.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it.
I love the fact. I love also Richard that in the beginning of the episode, in the first ever episode of Mystic Force, you see how you get a first view of how confident Xander is though when he's telling like Vita and Claire at the record store, you go organize the records. Hurry, snap.
Legally too.
Exactly.
You mean Maddie? It's Maddie, not Claire.
Sorry.
Yeah. I watched that the other day actually. I was like, oh wow, I really was very confident.
Yeah, you were,
that's
man.
how the character was.
Yeah.
That's how the character was written. So I really went full bore with it. You know what I mean? I really like.
You can tell you had fun with him. Like it's great.
I did, yeah. I was, it's funny. I was watching back and I thought, oh, I don't have the same guts now as an actor that I had back then. I sort of like really went for it, and now I'm like, oh God, I wouldn't make those decisions anymore. I'd try and play it a bit cooler or underplay it a bit more. I don't know, and it probably might come off just weak, So it's always a bit sad when you watch yourself in the past and you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
Do you still have the DVDs from back then, or do you like how do you watch it? Just out of curiosity.
I think it's on YouTube, is it?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Yeah, they're on YouTube.
Yeah.
On YouTube.
I still got my DVDs though here.
That's mad. I would have it on DVD back in my folks' place somewhere. Yeah, that's sick. I want it on Blu-ray though.
Do they have that?
You think they would have it on Blu-ray by now, but
I don't know if they scanned it in at that high enough quality back then.
I think they did.
I guess it depends.
They have the box sets.
Before you ask your next question, Gia, I said I have a surprise for Richard, and here it is.
Oh yeah.
This book has every Power Rangers from, I believe, Mighty Morphin to Beast Morpher. And
I love that book.
People, because I know, Kwame, you've seen this book. Dan, you've seen this book. Gia, I believe I showed you, but Jess, you've never seen this book. And it has every season.
Yeah, Jess hasn't seen it yet.
But I want to show the Mystic Force side in this book, because I absolutely think it's one of the best books that's ever made, Power Ranger books.
Seriously, need to get myself
is.
one of those.
You go first season. Let me see if I can get all the pictures in.
Yeah, it's on. It's on my end. I see it.
Everyone see?
Oh my. Yes, we can see it.
Awesome.
I believe there's a picture. Let me see. What do we got here? We got
Root core.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
It's such
I
a
love
cool
that.
set.
what was it like to go inside the entrance of Root core?
Well, the set was not in that mouth.
What was
that, No, so that was outside. So you literally all the exterior scenes would be shot around there. It looked awesome, and it was such a nice place. Like New Zealand's just beautiful, and you'd be out in the forest, in the woods, and it's awesome. And you shoot the exteriors, and then you'd walk through the mouth, and then you'd cut. I don't even remember what was on the other side of the mouth. I can't even remember. I have no recollection. And then that was it. And then the scenes, once we're in, you'd shoot in the studio.
Oh, I see. All
and
right.
inside
So I've always
was-
wondered. All
And
right. Makes more sense when you say it that way.
Was it in Auckland, New Zealand?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
All right.
I love the Root Core set is beautiful, and just how it got trashed at the end, but it was still like so good.
I still remember the first time I walked into it. I remember walking in, and that was the first time I was really on a big set like that. And it was magical too. So it wasn't just a typical
No
set. It
pun
was something
intended.
different. And I remember looking around and being like, this is mad. This is amazing. Yeah.
Awesome. And Gio, you had a question.
Oh, yes. Out of all the villains, which one was your most favorite like to battle as your character?
Ooh. I loved the giant actually. Just because for several reasons. He was a really nice guy, but also it was quite a Xander heavy episode, which was nice. Like that, I was saving the day. So
Oh,
that was
yes.
fun. Yeah.
That's right.
And also all the tricks we got to do with the camera. Because he was a big fellow, but he wasn't as big as he looked on screen. So they had to do all these camera tricks.
Yeah, they did like
and
forced
that was-
perspective and all like different. It was really cool.
Exactly. Yeah, and watching that was, I loved, how things work and how cameras work, and I was always really interested in how they were lighting scenes and what they were shooting on, being 16mm film and the lenses they were using, and like that was always really interesting to me, the technical aspect. So watching that was super interesting, and seeing how they did that.
Wow,
Yeah.
I see.
I think that's my favorite.
Cool.
Dan, you also had another question, right, Dan?
Well, I got a couple of this thing. Just curious, how old were you when you shot in when you were shooting Mystic Force? Just out of curiosity.
That's a good question. I think I was.
Because that was if that was 2006, because I was in high school when that was being.
Yeah, I was
when that
a
done.
sophomore in high school when that came out. Freshman into sophomore.
Myself and Gia, we were well young. We were kids back then.
Like
So
were you 18 or 19 or 20s?
No. It's about 22, 23, I think, mate.
Okay.
Yeah, because I finished uni in 2004, 2005. So I was about 22, 23, I think.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess it was young, but it
You're
feels
around
young
our age,
now.
right? You're around.
But you still look good regardless.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
you don't look a day.
You
You don't look a day.
You
over
haven't
18.
even aged, man. You
No.
look the same.
you
You look like you're 18.
No, he doesn't look a day over 18.
Yeah, man.
He's that good looking.
Yeah.
Sir.
I don't know if that's true. I can see myself here on the on the Zoom call.
You
Seriously,
haven't aged
you look the
that, like you
same.
haven't aged that much from here. This is when we first met
cool.
in 07.
Oh wow,
Wow.
that's right. I remember that well. That was my first time in LA, mate.
Really? I didn't know that.
2007. That was my first time in LA, and that was the first Morphicon.
It was, yeah. You know what's funny? They didn't even think that was going to happen. I remember people thinking that was a hoax, or it was, but then it ended up being real. And like so, like it was a surprise for everyone. But I'm glad. That's the thing. I'm glad you were there, and I'm glad it happened.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I have very fond memories of that. And also, yeah, because I just come from doing like Les Mis in Sydney and like left the next day. And I remember flying out to LA and then we stayed in downtown LA, which at that point was pretty like I don't know how to describe it, but it wasn't what I thought LA was going to be, put it that way. From how LA is shot and sort of presented to us in Australia, especially back then, it was very shiny and green and palm trees and pools and there's definitely a part of LA that's like that, but downtown was very much a city. And I remember coming to LA and just being like, whoa, I'm in the desert. Like this is like, getting on the freeway from LAX and coming out and it just being like dusty and the smog and just flat out with just palm trees like poking out of the smog, and then the hills and the heat and like Ferraris next to old Hondas with their like roof falling off. And like I remember just being like, whoa, this place is like vast. It made Australia just look so sort of like packaged and like I'm gonna sneeze.
Bless you.
Bless you.
God bless
Bless
you.
you. Bless you.
No, that's right. Sorry. They normally come in 2 or 3, so I may do more. Now don't get me wrong. I love LA. I lived in LA for 6 years, and I love it. But that was my first time there, and I remember. I think I was sort of like taken aback. I was what's the word? I was sort of scared of it a little bit. It was so big. And it's the first time I've been to America. I was like, this place is too vast for me. I can't get my head around it. And I remember driving into Hollywood with some of the other cast members one night, and driving up the Sunset Strip and seeing all the all like the lights and weird buildings that like the House of Rock, like which is now knocked down. Is it the House of Rock? And just being like, this place is nuts. Hollywood's insane. Like, and then driving into the hills and loving that. And then I had a singing lesson with this guy called Seth Riggs, who's a big singing teacher who I went to there. And then I remember getting on a plane on the way back and sort of being like, well, I don't know how I feel about LA. And I was sitting next to this woman and she goes, LA has a way of bringing you back. You'll be back. And I was like, oh, don't know. And she's like, you'll be back. And then sure enough, I think probably 2010 or even 2 years later, I ended up going back every year for a couple of months, getting an agent, auditioning, and then I finally scored Chasing Life, and then in 2012, and then moved there and lived there until 2019. So so that was the show, and the Morphicon brought me over to LA, started my love affair with LA, and ever since, I've always loved it, and it's felt like a second home to me.
I hope that we get to meet in August from Pasadena. I hope, like, since you love LA, I hope you get to visit again LA and then come to Pasadena Morphicon this year.
I really hope so too. Yeah, I really hope it works out, because that's a great excuse for me to get over to LA as well, and to see everyone and see you guys and be a part of the community, which I love, and we had I've been to a couple of Comic-Cons here in Sydney, which have been really good too, meeting a lot of fans in Sydney, which is awesome. And but it also makes me go, oh, I really want to be like at the one that's just for Power Rangers, and it's always a good vibe, and we're always so well looked after, And it's just great to see everyone, like, every couple of years, and it's a really amazing community. I'm so glad to be part of it now. Like it's I didn't know it was going to be like this when I did Power Rangers. I had no idea that 20 years later I'd be flying to LA and seeing, hanging out with the fans and meeting new fans, and like it's awesome. No other show does that.
Not at all. And
Yeah, yeah.
we talked about like many episodes like in the past, like recently, and we just wanted to know, like, did you have a favorite Mystic Force episode that it was like your favorites, or at least top 3?
I did enjoy the Dark Wish.
Love Dark Wish.
episodes.
Wait, wasn't it? Oh yeah, wasn't that a 3-parter episode?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
it was
Yeah,
like
Yeah,
a,
that's
it was
right.
like a movie almost, TV movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
That's why we
remember
liked
watching it
it.
on Jetix.
Yeah, and it was black and
Yeah.
white, and it just had this. We felt like we were making something like really, I don't know, yeah, like theatrical, like a movie. You know what I mean? Like something really filmic.
Yeah.
And it was getting closer to the end of the season, so it had the stakes were high, and things were coming to a point, and I think we all really enjoyed that, and some of the locations for that were just awesome. One, when we were meeting the Tribunal of Magic,
Oh,
just
it's
on
so
this cliff,
beautiful.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
that's
just
tribunal.
looking out of the water, and it was just I remember that really well. They're like, man, it's beautiful. So that was one of my favorites. And then Petrified Xander was fun as well. That was a lot of work, like with the bark, sticking bark onto me. But that was fun. That was fun. The giant one was really fun. All the stuff around the Rockporium was always fun, because my character was like the boss there, so I was always just bossing people around and being an idiot. So that was always fun. And it was also a music store, and I love music, so it was perfect.
But whatever happened to that music store that Xander worked at?
Yeah, since he's now the manager.
Probably got him all over the country, hasn't he?
Oh,
Oh yeah, speaking of that, Gia would want to work there, and I mean, if it was real and if she was in Mystic Force, she would get along with Vita extremely well, because Gia
Yeah.
loves music.
I'm
Oh,
a music
epic.
lover here.
Yeah, literally,
Right.
her and Vita, they would become besties at the instant.
That's Matt. I can tell by your headphones.
Oh yeah.
And as for Jess, on the other hand, yeah. Oh wait, she would actually be she would be hanging out with Chip quite a lot. Wouldn't you?
Why not?
I mean, yeah, he's the nerd after all. I mean, I have a lot of respect for him. He's a great guy.
Me too.
He's funny.
Chip's awesome. He was so funny. He's a legend. Great
Oh
guy.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Remember that episode? Oh yeah, that's it. The Strength Within. When Daggeron sends the Rangers away on a test.
Yeah.
And was being antagonized. I mean, Daggeron. I'll admit, Xander is brave for talking. Talking. How do I say it? He's saying stuff right when Daggeron was standing right behind him, and he's standing right behind me, isn't he? I'm like, whoa, watch yourself. I'm like, you got
I
Xander,
remember
my
that.
boy, but bro,
Gento is the coolest.
yeah.
We have a running gag on here, Richard, and there's a question we always ask our Power Ranger guest stars, and Kwame knows where I'm getting with this. And Kwame, I know
Yep.
you have that question, so you go ahead and ask that wonderful question, sir.
Sure, man, you got it. So, how does it feel to be a legend? How does it feel to be a legend, bro?
My legend.
Yeah,
You think you
to
are?
us you are. Yeah.
Yes, to
Of
us
course you
Well,
are.
I mean, to Jess personally, she loves Mystic Force, so to her, you mean a lot to her,
Yes.
don't you, Jess?
Let us put it this way, Richard, that it's pretty much like in Wayne's World, like where they go, we're not worthy. That's pretty much what us, like Gia, Kwame, Dan, and myself are. We're like, we're not worthy.
Jess, don't forget about Jess.
And Jess, sorry, Jesse.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna feel it. I'm gonna feel it, and I'm gonna I'm going to take it on. I'm going to feel like a legend for I'll give myself 5 seconds and then I'll come back to reality and
Yeah. Oh yeah. Speaking of that,
and remember
Jess,
all
I
the other
believe you have
all the
something.
reasons why I'm not.
Jess,
You are a fan
thank you.
favorite, though. I hope you know that.
Yes,
You know, people like people love you, Xander. He's great. You know.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate that.
Just show me
It's a
more
lot to do
for
with the writing and everything else, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you brought him to life. You took those words and made it your own, and you know.
I guess I didn't mean to. I just tried my best, I guess. And it could have gone either way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had no idea. Yeah, I just tried my best, and
Well, you're
it
humble
happened to
about it,
work.
which is that's nice. That's what makes it even better. You know.
Jess, you had a question.
I lost track.
Don't worry.
My bad.
No worries.
Oh, wait, I got a question. I'll help you.
Go ahead.
It's question 11. You wanted to ask Richard like what was his favorite line? Well, you say it. Oh.
Yeah. What was your favorite line when you were Xander? What was your favorite?
I do remember he's standing right behind me. I do remember.
I love that.
Oh, I said it for him. He's standing right behind me.
Staring right behind you.
Yeah.
That was fun. How hot? What was it? How hot is Lulu's mum?
Yeah, that was on the final episode. That was when
Lily's mom is hot.
Nicoline's curse was
Lily
broken.
mum.
That's the line. That's
That was
man,
funny.
I love that.
And then
she
the
was hot.
bandana stuff was always fun. Oh, it's just beautiful. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah, Jess has something she wants to show you. Jess, I think you know what I'm talking about.
That's great.
Show me your morpher.
Yes.
You got your morpher, right?
Break it out.
Oh, that's mad.
Yeah.
I had one of those. I had the morpher too, but I lost it. I had a grey one, a really awesome grey one, and I lost it too. Luckily, when Jess and I were at Comic-Con, they had a lot of Power Rangers morphers. I told her to get it before it was too late because I didn't want her to miss a chance to get one. I just had to tell her to get it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
That is cool.
Have it with me.
Is that it with her? Always.
That's awesome.
I did want to ask too, Richard. You filmed they're all out of all 32 episodes of Power Rangers Mystic Force. Do you have any funny behind the scenes story you could share when you're working with the cast members?
Good question.
Yeah, what was it like to work with them?
Yeah, Nick Sampson, like all of them.
Yeah.
Oh, Nick is just hilarious. When I went back there, I went and watched Nick do a stand-up routine. He was great. I would often talk to the crew a lot and the sound guys, and they made me a pop shield from I think his name was Adam, and he got a coat hanger and wrapped the stocking around the coat hanger and made me a pop shield for my microphone. A pop shield is so when you sing into the mic, you don't get a what they call plosives that sound very loud in the studio microphone. And he helped me buy like what they call an M box, which was basically an interface for music, so I could record. And I started recording music while I was over there. That's where I sort of started recording. So that was really fun. I do remember a time where I think I dared. There were these two huge trees. I told it before that sort of made a canopy, and we're looking up at them, and we had 10 minutes off, and I dared. Taras was always doing really crazy things, and he was very very strong and fit, and could do backflips and stuff like that, and I dared him. I asked him to climb up one tree and go over the canopy and down the other tree.
Oh yeah.
And it's super high.
Yeah.
Like we're talking like, God, it would have to be nearly 10 meters up. like the canopy. It was big. It was 10 meters is like 30 feet.
When you connected on a wire rig to do those stunts, right?
No, this was not a stunt. This was just me
Oh.
going to climb up
Oh.
that tree and climb down the other tree. Let's see if you can do it. And he was like, I'm going to do it. So he started climbing the thing and got up pretty much at the top of that one tree and was trying to get across the canopy. And I remember the first AD or the, like, not the director, but or maybe the director, I can't remember who it was, just kind of looked up and just went, oh, that ass. Get down. Like, that's so
Is up that tree, dude. You're brave.
so dangerous.
Brave.
Which it was. It was very dangerous. And, you know, if he'd hurt himself, that would have been a big problem for production. So that was just one of many times when we got in trouble doing stupid things on set. Because we were quite young. So, you know what I mean? It as you get older, you do less and less stupid things. But when you're in your early 20s and you're on set and you're just around, you know, 4 other people and you're just waiting to shoot, you just, you know, trying to come up with stupid things to do. And that was one of them.
Yeah. But that's relatable. It's very relatable.
You think you're
pictures.
indestructible.
Yeah. It's so relatable when you say, you know, when you're in your early 20s, you could just think of something really stupid to you know, do. Like I said, relatable, man. It's a big mood.
It is. We have a couple of questions before we wrap up, though. And Gia, you had another question.
Right. What was your reaction and memories after like the last episode of Mystic Force, if you remember?
My reactions and memories after watching the last episode,
Yeah, that's right.
or being in it.
Oh well, watching the last episode, I mean.
Yep, probably both.
I haven't watched the full series back to back in a long time, and that's something that I really want to do this year before I go to the Morphicon, is do a proper binge of all of it. So I will let you know how I feel about it after, because I would love to get the full build up. You know what I mean? I've watched bits and pieces and revisited certain episodes, but I haven't watched all. How many? 36 episodes or something?
32.
Yeah.
32.
32.
I wish it was 36. I wish it was longer. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. 32 still, it was still fun. For one season, that's a lot of episodes,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I guess.
But after, what's funny is after, I'm sure you heard when Saban bought it back, they cut it down to 20 episodes. And
Yeah, I
then,
don't know why they
and
did
then
that.
Cosmic Fury was only 10, but, you know.
Yeah. No, it
But
was, it's 30. You can really cover a lot of ground in 32 episodes.
Yeah.
So,
And you guys,
yeah.
it just went to, like, as I say, it's one of my top 3 favorite seasons. I just wish it would have lasted longer because, like, what's funny is, going into it, I was ready to not like Mystic Force, but I was hooked by Broken Spell Part 2. It was because this, like, at first I didn't like the suits, and I wasn't sure about like how, like, because at that time we only had the leaked pictures, and I wasn't sure, like, oh, what is it like? Because I'm not a Harry Potter fan at all, and I was like, magic? This sounds stupid. But then I watched it, and it was great. Like, I love the characters. I loved, like, the visually too. It's very different from every other season before it, which I love. And again, the suits. I love the action in it too. That was Koichi, right? I think the action blew me away too. So good, and just the way the Mordecai and Imperious, just the visually how the villains looked and sounded, they were really cool. So that. Just again, a lot of things that just turned me. And Jeffrey Dolan, him doing Korax, just so good. Again, it hooked me. And again, I'm not a magic guy. I was ready to not like it, but it just turned me around. I'm glad it did.
I'm glad.
Again,
Yeah.
And
That makes me happy, man.
Kwame, before you ask a question, Kwame, I just want to get Richard's quick opinion on something though too. Like, and I want to piggyback on what Dan said, like about how he mentioned Harry Potter. I was gonna say, Richard, do you think that Power Rangers Mystic Force is like it's like the Power Ranger series with elements that you would see from something like Lord of the Rings.
What was the question? Sorry.
Do you think that Power Rangers Mystic Force has, like it has some similar elements to the series
Lord
of
of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, it was filmed in the same locations, many of the same locations. So it's definitely got that. Some of the magic elements for sure. Some of the creatures. Yeah, I do. It's like a mix of Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings
Awesome.
in many ways.
And I just
Yeah.
want to say, Dan, you mentioned how the villains in there were just epic and just incredible. I loved Sally Stockwell's performance as Serpentina. I thought she was just great. The voice acting was just awesome on that one.
Amazing.
Yeah. And the master, like I like even though just like there's some
Optimus.
like
Optimus.
occult stuff in it, but the way they do it, I think it's like it's not like in certain seasons it's really like propaganda wise, but here in Mystic Force there was still entertainment to it. Like it wasn't like they were trying to put like it was the right type of magic. And like does that, I hope I'm making sense. Like it's like that's one thing too I love about Mystic Force. It wasn't afraid to take risks and be scary. Like for me, like my favorite monster from it, like Heir Apparent, that couldn't be done nowadays. Like the fact John, there's a line Dagron says where I'd rather die with honor than nothing. You couldn't say die in Power Rangers. No, they wouldn't allow it. They wouldn't, So with that, I'm glad that like just again took so many risks and it wasn't afraid to be scary or handle death. Like even Mystic Fate, having like Daggeron, Liambo, all them die on screen. That's pretty like, and for a kids show, that's pretty
Yeah.
brave of them. And I'm glad they did it. That's what makes it so great. Or one of the many
Yeah,
When
reasons.
shows were good. When shows were good back in the day, I want those days
That
back.
in my opinion,
That
that
was
was Power Rangers at its second golden age, at its peak. Because that was like nowadays, I'm not like for Cosmic Fury, I wasn't excited at all. But back then, like I'd say all the entire Disney era, I loved the Disney era, but I was excited to actually watch every episode. Then it was just a treat. And the characters were great, the story was great, the action was great, the villains were great, everything about it was great. But it was a great time to be a fan, in my opinion, back then.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. And I apologize, Kwame. You had a question. My apologies.
That's right. Okay, what teachings or important lessons have left you during your time in Power Rangers?
From shooting it or from the actual show?
I would say your experience with it. What has it taught you?
Well, being in the world of Power Rangers and the fan base, understanding the fan base and being part of that community has been really special to me, and it's really kind of made me appreciative of the people who watch the show and care about it and love it, and it's allowed me to watch the show in a different light with a different perspective. So I'm really thankful for that. I loved it. It gave me my first opportunity as an actor to be on something professional, and I learned a lot from that. That was my first professional job. I made a lot of mistakes, and I learned a lot from those mistakes. So that was good. And I judged a lot of what I did back then, and I hated what I did. Like there was a lot of work on that show that I couldn't watch myself, and that's a lot of the time why I haven't watched it back, is because it's hard to watch yourself on screen sometimes. And I think there's enough time between it now where I can look back and appreciate what it is for what it is, appreciate it for what it is, and not be so hard on myself, and not judge myself so harshly, and and also see some of the good things, like I said before, about some of my choices that I made, where I'm like, I need a bit more of that back in my acting. I need, and also remember how excited I was to shoot that and get some of that back into my life now. You know, that sort of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed sort of vision of the world, and you know, and being so excited to be part of something that you have when you're younger, and then sort of when it's funny because you try and get rid of that because that's a bit scary, but it's also what makes life exciting. That whole thing of like the difference between excitement and anxiety, and I look back on that and I go, oh, I was so excited to get up and shoot this and to be a part of it. And for so long, I tried to get rid of that excitement so I could just be cool with everything and nothing would give me any anxiety. But then sometimes you can lose that too much and you want to get back that excitement for life and those butterflies. And I think watching my earlier work reminds me of a time where I wanted to, you know, aim for the stars, you know, and so, yeah, I don't know if that answers the question. But
Yeah,
something.
it does.
I had a question similar to Kwame's though, but before I ask, I just want to say, Richard, you know how like in Disney World and Disneyland they have like the characters like, you know, all walking around the park and they all stay in characters. How awesome would it be if they created like a Power Rangers amusement theme park where like you and like you guys can be in character walking around the park 24/7. You have the villains, you have the Rangers all in their gear. How awesome!
That would be a dream.
that
would be a dream.
That'd be insanely good. And you could have how many rides could you make? I mean,
Oh,
the
God.
Oh
options
my
are
gosh.
endless.
If I'm
Options
taking
are
photos
endless.
with the characters, I am one hell of a poser. Believe me. I mean, I cosplay.
would
So does
be
Jess. We both
awesome.
cosplay. We pose.
The question I had for you, Richard, is that what do you think of the impact that Mystic Force has had on younger generation fans, even going younger than us? And like, because after years, I believe it was released right in 2006. This is 18 years after its initial release. So, what do you think about the reaction about how the impact that Mystic Force has done on not only us fans but also a new generation of fans?
It's a really good question. Look, it's hard for me to say because I don't know that many people from that generation, full stop, and who have watched Power Rangers. But I can, when I have been to the Morphicon and the Sydney one, I do see a younger generation, and they seem to be just as into it as all the other fans, and they love it. And I think it's the same thing that resonates with all the fans, which is, you know, standing up for yourself, learning who you are, fighting for something you believe in, friendships, teamwork, being called to do something that is larger than yourself, like, you know, the call to action. And you might not like it at first, but in your life, often that happens. You get called to pull up your socks and put on your shoes and go get something done. And if it happens to be saving the world as a Power Ranger, then that's what you do. But it might be something totally different in your personal life that you didn't ask for or you didn't want, but it's put in front of you and you have to do it. And only once you do it do you realize how much you learned from that and how important that was in your life to developing, you know, who you are and why you're here, understanding why you're here. So I think there's a lot of themes in there that are really, really strong, to be honest. And that's why you can do so many seasons of it, because it's written off a very strong sort of, you know, Bible per se, you know, the themes. It's written off a strong template that is timeless. You know, from these themes are timeless themes. So, and obviously every year, you know, there's fashionable elements in that to make it, you know, watchable and to make it, you know, snap into whatever year we're in. But it's those deeper themes that I think people generally relate to the most and have a lasting impact on people.
Well said, and totally agree. And
Yeah.
another question I had for you is that, what I ask this to every single guest I have, though, and this is a silly question. We like to have a little fun around here, Richard. So one of my questions is that whenever I'm not on a strict military, almost like diet, like there's times where I would literally like not eat anything until dinner time. I would fast until dinner time. But when I'm not doing that, I am an absolute foodie. And I know Power Rangers in general is a very big production company. So I was just really curious to know, what was the catering scene like on Mystic Force? And did you have a particular favorite meal in catering?
Okay, so honestly, I cannot remember what I ate that long ago. But I do remember this. That was the first time I was a regular on a set, shooting for more than a couple of weeks. So think about this, 7 months, 5 days a week. Yeah, 5 days a week. I was thinking 7, but I think we shot from Tuesday to Saturday. And then on Mondays we did ADR. But they needed Saturday because some locations were easier to shoot on a Saturday, obviously, because it's not a work day. So they could use certain locations. But don't quote me on that. But it was the first time where every day I had lunch and dinner or breakfast and lunch catered for me, for us. And just having not to think about preparing food and just rocking up on the set and just having as much as you want to eat. It was amazing. It's so good. And the food, I remember the food being good. I remember being like, this is awesome. Like, this is reason enough just to be an actor, is that you come to set and it's like, here's food, whatever you want. There's chicken, there's beef, there's pork, there's vegetarian, and there's also ice cream, and there's cake, and there's as much coffee as you want, and there's tea. And in America, they have craft services. So there's a room or an area that just has food all the time that you just go into. It's got donuts, it's got everything. It's got nuts, it's got snacks, it's got croissants, it's got a toast cheese sandwich maker. So it can be dangerous. Like, if you're on set and you're not working a lot and you're bored and you're like, what am I going to do? I guess I'll just go to craft services and eat until I feel sick, and then just sit and feel sorry for myself, and then try and act and be in a food coma, and just like, if I ate too much sugar or carbs, I just like crash. So a lot of scenes after lunch, I'm like, I can tell I'm watching myself. I'm like, you were half asleep. Like, you didn't know what was going on. But yes, that is one thing I love about the film industry is that they feed you, and there's so that is good. And I think at one point I started going to the gym, which was good too. So then I could eat enough to, because a lot of the time I forget in my normal day life, I forget to eat. I just sort of go about my day and get stuck on something, and then I forget. So having food there and being like, now you have to eat lunch. And also when you've been working for 6 hours straight on something, you're actually really hungry and you do want to eat. Whereas if sometimes, and yeah, so anyway, I liked it.
Awesome. And we're gonna wrap up soon. We're gonna wrap up soon. I just want to ask one quickie question though about the Petrified Xander episode, because was that makeup like difficult? Like, was it hard to wear that makeup? Because did it look difficult as it was wearing it, or no? Like with the wood.
Yeah, so what it was like stockings, like a stocking over my face, my arms, and then they put it on me, and then they glued bark to the stocking. So I sat there for about 2 hours, 3 hours as they glued pieces on, and all my arms and everything. And then they very carefully, at the end of the day, pulled it off my head. And then the next day, put it on my head, fixed up any pieces that came off. So, yes, it was uncomfortable.
But it wasn't on my mouth.
I felt so bad.
But I didn't have to do it that often. It was only one episode. There are a lot of people that had a lot worse prosthetics all the time. So it was good because it gave me an understanding of what they went through every day. So I could empathize with that. And
Especially Kelson was
appreciate-
piteous. He had to do a lot. And plus, he had the teeth.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's incredible.
But he again, he made it so like I love the comedy in it too. It was so well done in Mystic Force.
Yeah.
Like it's just the right amount of darkness and death, and then right amount of just humor and comedy. So between Antonia and Kelson.
Yeah.
And Barney too. He's an art dude. We gotta get to a con.
Oh
he's
yeah, yeah,
awesome.
we actually do.
Oh, he 100%. That'd be so cool.
Awesome. And
You think he would do it or no?
Maybe, yeah. Why not?
we're gonna conclude with a couple of final comments from everybody. Everyone's gonna say their final comments. I have one final question, but I want to save that for our guest star because this will be his time to talk, like, and go over stuff. But final comments, Daniel, go ahead. What would you like to say to Rick?
Okay. How do you feel that they haven't touched on Mystic Force yet for the Lightning Collection? Because for me, I don't like it. Because like it's a shame. This is the only like as close as we'll get to a Lightning figure of you. And I think they
Yeah.
should do Mystic Force. They haven't even touched on it, but
Yeah, that'd be great. I hope so too. Yeah.
Gia, your final comments for Richie.
I guess all I can. Well, I don't really like have any questions, but I guess I would like to say just thank you for being part of my childhood and everyone's childhood here. Like you're just an amazing, incredible guy, and you've been my idol for so many years. And if I were to meet you face to face, I would give you the biggest hug of all
Mm.
time. So thank you.
Thanks, Gia. Thank you for saying that. That means a lot. And hopefully I do get to meet you and we get to do a big hug. Where do you live, by the way?
I live in the United States in California.
So could you get to the Morphicon?
Probably I would, like, if I can drive.
Say again. You good?
I could if I could drive,
Yeah.
which I can't yet.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure we will meet one day.
I hope so. And again,
It
just
will
thank
be.
you so much for being part of my childhood. Thank you.
Well, thanks for saying so, Gia. I appreciate it. Really nice to meet you.
You
Jess?
too.
Jess, any final comments for Richie? Is your microphone on?
I just literally put on here and watching Power Rangers Mystic Force and you being there for my mind.
Breathe, breathe,
Breathe.
Just breathe.
Deep cleansing breaths.
Deep breath, man.
Yeah,
Thanks, Jess.
been absolutely amazing.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Jess.
Kwame, your final
Thanks for
comments.
watching.
Mystic Force has been a big part of my childhood on Jetix. I used to watch it all the time. I still do. I watch the other series, and thanks for being part of my childhood and being a great Green Ranger, and also you making your return in Operation Overdrive on that Team Up episode, because I was not expecting you would come back, but it was good to see you having your powers again. And also, since you said you wanted to check out other communities around the world, we do have conventions in the UK. If you ever did come to the UK one day, Jess and I would be first in line to see you again.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I'd love to get you to Chicago too.
yeah.
I think that'd be amazing.
Oh, I'd love to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
to Chicago as well. Would
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, before I
Yeah.
forget, I
Yeah.
normally ask this in our podcast. Is there any questions you want to ask us?
Oh, thanks. Good question. Well, first, I want to say thanks for having me on this, and and it's a very fulfilling, very fulfilling for me to do this podcast and meet you all and talk about this, and something that we shared together, you know, and it means a lot to me. So I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the podcast that you do, and it's out of a love for it, you know, and when people do things just because they love something, you know, like that, I get it, and I love the passion as well, because I'm a passionate person as well. So it's what life is about, you know. It's about loving the things you love and getting super passionate about them and making things happen. And good on you, Petey, for putting this together and having your friends on, and I get to meet your friends, and you know, I'm happy to do this anytime, and love to meet you in at the Morphicon, and maybe I can get over to Chicago sometime in the UK.
yeah.
I'd love that.
Yeah.
But this
You
isn't,
love England.
this isn't
Believe
the
me, you'll
end
be
of
fascinated.
yeah. This is, to me, this is the beginning, you know, of the community. Just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and I'm sure there'll be more and more conventions. So to me, we've got a whole life ahead of us of chatting and hanging out and talking about Power Rangers, and you know,
Yeah.
Before I get to my
Indeed.
You and
Yeah.
I go way back, but I would really love to get you here in Chicago. That would be great.
that makes it.
Before I get to my final comment, I just have one final question, and this question's for you, Richard, and that is, what's next for Richard Brancatisano? There I go again. I'm sorry. I'm just terrible with pronunciation. I apologize. But
Yeah.
the question is that because my show is an open forum, this is a part of the show where you could say anything, talk about anything, promote, hype. You could say anything you want. It's open mic. I am passing the proverbial microphone on to you. The floor is yours, Richard.
Awesome. Basically, at the moment, I'm working on my original music. So I've written a lot in the last 10 years, of maybe about 4 albums worth of material and a couple of EPs. So the next step is to record them, and then hopefully release them. I have released a few songs, but I'd like to release these as albums and as vinyl as well, you know, on records, and then hopefully tour the stuff. So that's kind of what's on the horizon for me, and just continuing to audition for movies and TV, and hopefully I book something cool soon. Yeah, and hopefully coming to LA in August. I'm really looking forward to that.
I just want to say, and this is gonna be my final comment too, like for you, sir. First of all, thank you for not only an amazing interview, but I just gotta thank you for all those memories you gave me watching Power Rangers Mystic Force as a 16-year-old. It's unfortunate that you don't have the powers like you do on Mystic Force, but you have this incredible gift, sir, where you can, you know, take this 30-something-year-old fan and bring him way down here and make him feel like that 16-year-old braces riddle kid that was in high school watching this ass-kicking, charismatic, entertaining guy that is Richard Xander Bly.
Thanks, mate. You know what's funny? I have those same memories of people who I watched when I was younger, who I, you know, look up to, and who sort of, you know, I have those same with music and with acting, and we all do. Like, if we all grew up with a TV, which we all did, we all had those people that affected us when we were younger, and that is why I get it. Like, we're all the same, you know. Like, I have exactly those same people, and when I meet them, I like to say thank you to them as well. Like, I like just to say thank you for doing what you did, and like, it really affected me as a kid. And I've got to do that a few times, with a few people in my life, and that's why I like to be able to do this, because there's, we're all the same, you know. There's nothing we're very similar. Is basically what I'm saying is, and it's an honor that I get to be that person for you guys, and I don't take that lightly. And I just think it's amazing that we're in a world now that with Zoom and the internet and all this other technology that we can sit here and chat from around the whole world. Like we couldn't do this 20 years ago. And it's only going to get even more insane. Soon we'll all be in VR, AR goggles, and we'll be in Rec Room talking in another maybe you'll have built some the Rockporium again in VR, and we can all go and hang out at the Rockporium, and I can boss you guys around and get you to do VR chores and just like down the fly,
Let's do that.
That'd be sick, That'd be so
I
cool.
love that.
Let's do it.
Same,
that's
man.
the future, right? That is that is not unrealistic in another. We could even do that now if it's possible now, but in 10 years it'll be happening.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it will.
Oh
So,
yes, of course.
It's only the beginning.
It is. It really is. So we got a lot of fun ahead of us.
Just a
We got a
few
lot
things.
of fun ahead of us.
Just a few things before we conclude here. First of all, I'm gonna hopefully get more Mystic Force people on. I reached out to Nick Sampson, but his people said that he's busy right now. But when they hear back from him, that they'll let me know. But I'd love to have Nick on the show. I mean, I'd love to have anyone in the cast. Sally Stockwell, anybody would be cool. And not only that, but I'm gonna piggyback to what Gia said. Like, if she met you, she would give you a hug. Let me just say this: this is my first Morphicon. Meeting you, not only you're gonna notice me because I'll be the guy with the really wide eyes, like in excitement. Like my eyes, you will see the pupils. That's how white they're gonna be, and you may not see it, but my heart will be racing that day because of, as a longtime fan of Power Rangers, as a fan of Mystic Force, that this was a long time dream of mine to actually attend an event like this.
Awesome. Well, I'll look after you, mate, and we'll have a good time.
And also, I'm going to send you a copy of this interview as soon as I'm done editing it. I promise.
Great, fantastic.
Richard, really quick, do you have any links where we can listen to your music? And when you do put vinyl out, I will buy them. Just throwing that out there too. But if there's any way, let us know when you get that out, or if there are any links to find it or anything. Just
the best thing to do is just follow my Instagram, which is Bitchy Ranko. Or just look up Richie Branco, and my music is under Richie Branco on Spotify and Apple Music. So just look it up.
Ask if it's on YouTube too, but that's
it'll be
Rumble,
on YouTube as well.
That's good too.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it should be on all those streaming platforms. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Richie,
Thanks again.
Thank you, and we're gonna conclude. And Kwame, you know where I'm gonna go with this. You deserve it, sir.
Yep.
We waited a long time for this, and that is thank you, Richie. Thank you, Richie.
Glad to have you here, man.
Richie. I felt like you deserved that, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Petey. That was awesome.
You have an awesome night, and hopefully we see each other in August.
Great to see you again, Richard.
See you, man. Thanks
you,
all for your time, and have a good day.
You too.
See you, man.
You
See you later.
too. God bless you, man.
God bless.